Okay, so today we have Jeff Dickerson, co-owner of Spire Motorsports, on the call today. Welcome.
Hey,
Uh,
thanks for having me.
so let's get into the questions. So first off, I was reading that you did some USAC racing. You want to talk a bit about that?
Are you talking about me back in the day?
Yeah, it was on the
Yeah,
Spire Motorsports website, so I figured why not include
yeah,
that?
yeah. I mean, I was super fortunate to come up in a golden age in USAC where you had a lot of guys making it down into NASCAR with Jeff and Tony and Kenny Irwin. And I mean, the list was so long back then, right? Randy Tolsma, and all these guys were coming down here. Um, and mechanics, everybody. I mean, it wasn't just drivers; it was mechanics and business people. And the Indy Racing League was going on, so or was just getting going. So it was just a super exciting time with opportunities, everywhere. Something that's that is lacking now is back then you could just be like, hey, I want to drive, and if you worked hard enough, people would give you opportunities. I was super fortunate to get opportunities to race. Just as the kind of conga line shifted up, as guys, like I was very close with a guy, Tice Carlson, who he went to the IndyCar series, so it's like he moved up, and I kind of hopped into his spot, right? And but
Yeah,
it's like that was Jason Lefler. I mean, back then it was like there was just opportunities on top of opportunities on top of opportunities, and you got it a lot by just hard work and putting yourself in the right place and doing well, kind of in, like for me, it was like go-karts and stuff like that. But if you could show that, those things were there. So, obviously I'm sitting here as an owner and not a driver. So, you can imagine how the driving side, went. I wasn't horrible, but I certainly was not elite. And that's pretty much the extent of it. We were super, you know, um, just super fortunate to come in
yeah.
at that moment.
And it's cool that you have like a racing background that um like you can kind of connect with your drivers now. Like,
Sure. No, for sure. I've been able to see the business from a lot of different ways or
yeah,
a lot of different angles. And yeah, on the driving side, it's just like it's not necessarily my driving experience that you're talking about, or I'm falling back on. A lot of it's from the spotter side, or just working with all these drivers along the way, where you pick up things and you see what makes them successful, and so forth. The only thing that translates from me being a driver is that I always had the best equipment, right? I
right.
was always fortunate enough to have the best equipment. So I think that sometimes drivers, when they don't make it, there's always an excuse like, man, if I just had this crew chief, or if I just had this car or this engine or something like that. And I think that's what makes them, it sits with them forever. And I think it's something that they hold on to, where I didn't have that. I could just be like, yeah, I had the best stuff. I just, just couldn't do it. So,
Right.
uh, but that's really the only stuff from my own experience. Everything else has been picking up working with Kyle and like Jeff Gordon and guys like that, where you're just like, you see how the elite do it and you try to pass those, you know, down.
Okay, so um what is your favorite track on the schedule in NASCAR?
The Bristol night race for sure.
I like that race too.
And yeah, and I still, going back to the oval at Indy is going to be special, but it's like,
Yeah, I
going to
forgot
Indy
that
is
was
still,
happening next year.
yeah. So going to Indy is still, is still right there for me.
Right. And so you were in like business management or like like motorsports management at one
Mm-hmm.
or before you started like before you started Spire Motorsports?
Yeah, you asking the company or what I did?
Like, well, like the company, like how did you go from like being um in like the management side to going like to being an owner?
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously our roots are from an agency with motorsports management and Kerry Agajanian. And, that was just like again, man, I've just been super fortunate to be in the right spot at the right time. And what was happening at MMI, in the early 2000s all the way, to, 2012 or so, was just this amazing um, group of individuals that are still, even though we're all not at MMI, everybody's still just like, just kicking ass in the industry, right? I mean, so it's like just a special collection of individuals. And so when we went to Spire, essentially the thought was, you're not going, you can represent all the drivers in the world if you don't help with, if you can't find sponsorship for these teams, there's not going to be any teams for these guys to drive for. So at Spire, we started working with teams and sponsors as well as drivers, but really focused in on the teams and the driver, or teams and sponsors, so that they trusted us and worked with us where we could, when they needed a driver, it would work, right? And so one of those teams was Furniture Row. When Furniture Row went out of business, they were looking to sell their charter. We were trying to sell their charter. Nobody would buy their charter. So we bought the charter. That's how we ended up being, in ownership.
Okay, so that leads kind of into my next question. So, you guys obviously bought out Furniture Row, well, the charter, I should say, but now you're going to 3 cars in 2024. What's the kind of the process been like there in terms of like the expansion side, that type of stuff?
I mean, it's been a lot of work. It's a heavier lift, as we go, but how we accommodate the expansion is that's why we did the deal with Kyle and bought out KBM. Was,
Yeah.
we needed the space. Ultimately, we needed the space more than anything else. So that's how we accommodated it, right? I mean, that's been the extent of it. I mean, it's been a lot of hard work. I would say that, I'm super lucky to have a group around us, that, with Ryan Sparks and Bono Mannion and Mike Ricci and Bill Anthony and, and Emma Setzer and TJ. It's just like, we've got a group everybody's been on kill here, trying to get all this done. And the guys at KBM have been great. Kyle's been great. And so, it's a big lift, and physically moving all this stuff from Concord to
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
It's going to be a bit of a thing here in the next week or so, but look, man, I mean, it's what we signed up for, right? I mean, nobody's waiting for us, and Daytona's already on the books, so
Yeah.
it is how it is, right? I mean, we gotta go.
Now, in terms of like buying KBM, I know you mentioned you're gonna feel like what, three trucks, I think I read. Is that the
it'll look
anticipated plan?
yeah, it'll look very. I mean, the footprint at KBM will look similar than what it is this year, right? So I mean, it's our
Right.
intention. I think we're gonna run 3 trucks, out of there, and we'll have the 3 Cup cars, and so that's that's what we're doing.
Okay, and let's see what else do we have here. So obviously you bring in Carson Hocevar to drive the 77, and Zane Smith to drive whatever number that it will be announced. I'm assuming here in the next couple of months.
Yep.
Now, what advice would you give to Hocevar and Smith as like rookies coming into the Cup Series?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think I think everybody wants to do really, really well, right? I mean, those guys have lots of expectations on them and a lot of pressure on them to perform. Some of that is just going to be just kind of reminding them that they're rookies and Sundays are hard, and Carson's had a lot of good runs already on Sundays, running for Legacy. And that's great. That's not how it always is, right? Everybody goes up and down, and certainly rookies go up and down, and Zane as well. I mean, they're both really fast. Zane's a championship, has won championships in the truck series. He's run some Cup races, but it's hard. And what I think the bigger thing for those guys isn't the result; it's the process and it's the growth. and it's just kind of about like doing your own thing. You don't need to be like, looking for skirmishes, right? I mean, you can see, with Carson, Carson's ruffled some feathers, right? Certainly on Fridays, he ruffled some feathers. And obviously Friday night was some. And, when you see all these cup guys, talking about it and talking about him. And the thing I would say to him is just like, hey man, they wouldn't talk about you if you sucked. You know what I mean? Like I've seen this movie with Ross Chastain. I've seen this movie, guys that we've worked with, guys with Kyle Busch. You know what I mean? It's just like,
Yeah.
veterans don't pay any attention to anybody that sucks, right? And so, and there's a learning process. I mean, it was hard. It was difficult for Kyle. It was difficult for Ross. Um, just how it is, man. I mean, they know who's fast and they know who's coming, and they're going to try to make it as difficult as they can already. Let alone if you run into them. So we want to make sure that these guys just run the laps and keep their nose clean. I think it's going to be more difficult. Corey didn't have any DNFs this year. That's hard to do, but that's the goal. You gotta be out there running the laps for these guys to learn. So that's what I would. It's probably a lot of advice in one answer, but that's where we're going to start.
And so that third car with Smith, you obviously got an alliance with Trackhouse for next year. So I think I read that they'll be providing like the pit crew. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean it's still to be worked out, but I mean, obviously we have Hendrick. Hendrick is our predominant alliance that we've had. So kind of marrying those two alliances into one place, is going to be a bit of a, it's curious to see how it's all going to operate. But Hendrick provides pit crews and information, and Trackhouse will provide pit crews and information. We get our engines from Hendrick, so you know what I mean. Like it's not. I am curious to see how it works, but it's not as difficult as it may. You know what I mean? Like we've had alliances in the past. You know what I mean? So.
And so like kind of follow-up question, but will his number be more chosen by like your ownership team or kind of Trackhouse or like a mix?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Like in terms of in terms of his Smith's sponsorship and like say like the number of the car.
Well, hold on. I mean, that's the thing. It's our team. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like I don't. They're not telling us what number to put on the car.
Okay,
You know
I
what I
just
mean?
didn't know if Trackhouse had any say in it.
No. I mean, look, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think it's that complicated, right? I mean, we'll work with Trackhouse on the sponsorship and making decisions, but ultimately it's our team, it's our stuff. Yeah.
So I know you had Gamebridge come on, which was obviously a major help this year in terms of sponsorship for both the 77 and the 7 car. And I know they've come on for your truck program for a few races here and there. But is there any how do I put this, like truth to the rumor of Andretti being involved in the team in any way?
No, I mean, look, I see why people talk about it, right? But it's just like I think, not to put fuel on a fire or something like that. But it's just like I think everybody just thinks that we just learned who Michael Andretti was because we shared a sponsor. You know what I mean? Through our agency, we've worked with Andretti for years. We've had drivers there, and so I mean, we get kind of a chuckle out of it. And I think, look, Michael has his hands full, right? I mean, they're working on the Formula One deal, and he's got a 4-car IndyCar team, and you know what I'm saying. So it's just like you just don't walk into somebody's office and be like, hey man, you want to buy a NASCAR team? You know what I'm saying? So it's like some of this is timing, obviously, but look, I would love to have somebody like Michael, and some of these guys, involved with Spire, eventually. But it's not just that, I mean, it could be somebody like Chip, you know what I mean, who was here. I mean, like our network is pretty extensive. So, to limit it to, hey, this is what Michael's doing, or, have you guys thought about that, or is that what you guys are doing? It limits all the opportunities that are out there for Spire.
Okay, so I know you ran some Xfinity races this year. Do you expect that to your Xfinity program to continue into 2024, or at least part time?
I don't ex Hold on. I would like it to happen, but I'm not taking it for granted that it's going to happen.
Right. Uh, let's see. So you mentioned you had an engine deal with Hendrick. Um, so how long have you kind of like been like in the fold with like Hendrick Motorsports in terms of like that type of deal?
Since we started, I mean, my like I've been in the fold with Hendrick essentially my whole racing career, or my whole NASCAR career, um, or most of it, or significant amount of it. So the relationship is deep and goes forever. And Mr. Hendricks always treated me like a son, and I wouldn't be here without him. So um, I guess since we started the Cup team, we've essentially been with Hendrick Engines.
Right. And let's see. So I know Chevrolet is ending the production of the Camaro. There, I'm assuming there's rumblings behind the scenes about the the next like body or like um, the next car style they're gonna use.
I don't know.
Okay.
They're not asking us which one we want to use. You know, look, I wouldn't care if it's a Malibu. They could do whatever they wanted, and I'm sure it'll go fast.
What would you like to see for the? Do you have or do you have any ideas for the Cup Series that they could like as a sanctioning body? Like what do you think NASCAR could do to say get viewership back up? What do you think? Do you have any good
Oh,
ideas?
well, I mean, look, I didn't know viewership's terribly, what I mean, like is
I mean, it's not terribly down, but like
well,
there's
I know, but when you look at it against other sports, I mean, NASCAR is pretty solid, man. So I mean, I don't, you know what I mean? Like I don't.
yeah.
Yeah, here's the thing. How about Chase Elliott doesn't get suspended? How about Chase makes the playoffs? That I would rig the system so that Chase makes the playoffs every year, no matter what. But like I just don't want to chase a ghost that's not there, right? It's like we all need to. Obviously, we want the viewership numbers to keep rising in this day and age. That's not what's happening across any sport or any platform. Um, and it's harder to measure also without the with people cutting the cord. um but like when you ask a question like that, I think it's easy to be like, yeah, I wish they would do this or that, but really it's just a matter of, I think we've got personalities. I think we have enough rivalries and chaos and at the I mean, so
Yeah.
I don't you know um look, it would be great. um I mean, I don't know what what do you want to do? You want to run around backwards? You know what I'm saying? Like you want to put like police lights on everything. I mean, I don't know what else you could do. I just think that I think the racing's great. I think it's getting I think NASCAR never sits on their hands on what they can do to right now everybody's talking about the short track package and how do we make that better. So um, I don't have any suggestions that aren't going to be anything that those guys haven't already thought about. I don't.
Right.
That's another thing, man. Just to kind of just give it to you. It's just like I don't think NASCAR gets enough credit. They're not sitting. They're not just sitting there. You know what I'm saying? Drinking coffees all day, being like, they're always pushing. So and this industry as a whole pushes. So I will push back on the what you're saying about as far as viewership. Like if you want to say, hey man, it's down 5%. Okay, cool. I'll take that on a year where Chase was suspended and missed the playoffs. Because look, that's a big part of the fan base. We can keep them engaged. I think you'll see some of those numbers, bounce back.
Yeah. So Corey LaJoy's been with the team for now, what, 2 years now, if I'm correct. So, what's it been like having Corey on the team now for that long? And
Yeah, Corey's
what?
great. Yeah, Corey's great. Watching him grow is a look. I mean, we just talked about Corey having no DNFs. I don't think anybody would have imagined that. But I don't think Corey gets enough credit, for what he brings to the sport, what he brings to our team. Look, he's as our team has gotten better, Corey's results have gotten better, right? So I think there's a lot of ways that we just have held him back.
Right.
But certainly the last half of this year we've had speed, and we're going to keep what Ryan and those guys in the shop are doing as far as building speed with the resources that we have is amazing. And as we kind of grow our sponsorship base and are able to provide the guys with more stuff, then I think that Corey will keep moving up the grid. That's really but Corey,
Not enough you can say about him.
no, I mean, I'm just saying, like his sense of humor, his approach. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think anybody puts more on Corey than Corey.
Right.
But it hasn't been easy, for him. And so, I don't know what any of us would do if we had fast cars every week, or if it was easy for us, right? Because I think we're all just used to it being so hard. It is hard, but just we sometimes make it more difficult than it needs to be. But I think Corey's got a bright, next year is going to be a big year for him, a big year for our organization. So I don't know, man. I mean, I really I like the way that he handles his business. I like the way he does stuff with us. I love the way that he interacts with the fans and builds his brand along with ours. So, 5 stars. Give him 5 stars from here.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. That's all the questions I had for you today.
Right on, man.
And looking forward to seeing you out there at Daytona in 2024.
Yes, sir.
Good luck with the whole shop moving and everything. I know that's going to be obviously a big process.
Yep. We need it. We need the luck, man. We need it.
Yeah.
And come help if you want.
Oh, I will. I'm actually looking for a full-time job down there in North Carolina.
Yes, sir. Well, I'll talk to you soon, man. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna end the recording.